Hey everybody, Kate here. It is Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so we're going to start Hoerner Happy Hour. Why can I never say my last name? I don't know. Hoerner, as if the O wasn't there, in case you guys were wondering. I always have to explain that. My maiden name was Foster. So much easier. Anyway, so we got 4 questions this week that I want to address. And remember, just let me know when you guys ask questions in the group. If it's something you want me to talk about on Hoerner Happy Hour, I'm happy to. Just let me know. So we got 4 things. We're going to talk about 30-minute classes and, yay or nay, how we can do those. We're going to talk about apps for your phone and notes and things that you can do during your classes in place of those. We're going to talk about fun classes and how to promote those within your gym, and I'm a little bit more specific, but Sarah wanted to know how we can approach people within the gym to bring them into our classes. So we're going to, I guess, go through everything. It's going to take a little while, but probably go through those pretty quickly. I do have to hop. I have a couple of client calls after this, so we'll get through as many as we can. Hey, Penny. And anything that I don't get to, if you guys want to ask questions in addition to what we're going to cover, if I don't get to it, I'll answer it next week or I'll answer it in the group. So let's start with Lynn's question about 30-minute classes. I'm actually curious. I don't think Lynn's on yet. I'm curious why she asked that. She just asked my opinion on it. So I'm wondering if she got some feedback from her riders, or Lynn, you can let me know in the comments when you watch this. But I'm curious if there was a reason for that question, if someone was giving some pushback on it. I personally don't teach a lot of 30-minute classes, but I think they're a great idea. I think especially for someone who's not totally ready for a full, 45 minutes to an hour. My sweet spot is the 45 minutes. I think that that's the best amount of time for a class. 60 is almost a little long, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing an endurance class, it makes sense. But 30 is good. The problem with 30 is you do have to make sure that you're fully warmed up and your class is fully warmed up. So I would suggest, if you're doing 30-minute classes and you find people are struggling, maybe have them get there a little bit early and warm up on the treadmill or warm up outside doing something else before they come into class early, hop on the bike for a little bit longer, and make sure you have a decent warm up in class. So do, your normal intro and then hop into a couple warm up songs and then get into your, 20 minutes of whatever it is that you're doing, intervals, whatever it is. I would imagine you're going to have to do a little bit higher intensity for a 30-minute class because it is so short. Now, I know Lynn was asking because a lot of her riders can't last longer than 30, so in that case, just do a regular shortened class. You don't have to up the intensity, you just want them to be able to finish. So it will very much depend on your demographic, your riders. I do think 30 minutes is very doable. It just depends on what you're doing and who your audience is. So Lynn, I'm actually having a client call with Lynn later, so we'll talk a little bit more in detail with that, but I did want to share with you guys the basics of what we think about 30-minute rides. The next one, I have a lot to say about. Applications for, notes and cueing like Classbuilder or DJ Fitness. I believe it was Wendy that asked this question. So I used to use Classbuilder. I used to be a big fan. Hey, Jesse. Big fan of Classbuilder. It's great to have an application that takes your music and your cues and your notes and maybe graphs it out and makes it look beautiful and helps you through your class. I'm against it now, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I had a terrible experience with it. So I used it for a few years, and my phone updated one day, and I went to go change my classes. By the way, our phones update almost every day. It's crazy. Anyways, I went to go in and kind of update some of my classes that were coming out for the week, and the app didn't work since the update. And it still, I'm pretty sure it still doesn't work, but it was all of a sudden no longer worked. I don't know if they alerted people. I don't even think that Classbuilder really knew. So it no longer worked. I had to scramble to try and get all my classes together because I had planned everything, and it was a disaster. It was very stressful. I was lucky enough to be a beta tester for the new Classbuilder. And it's all right. It's similar to the old one. It was nice in that after 2 months I got all of my almost 1,000 routines back, but they were in a weird format and I couldn't download them. I couldn't really save them unless I was going to use this new app, which isn't, I don't think, even available yet. When it comes available, you'll be able to use it with Apple Music and Spotify, but I still wouldn't recommend it, and here's why. If you use an application like that in one of your classes, yes, it might make things a little bit easier, but you're doing two things. One, you're opening yourself up to technology failures and updates, app updates, phone updates, all of that stuff. If any of that happens, you're going to lose everything, which is, let me tell you, the most stressful thing, especially if you teach multiple classes in a week. And two, you're making a crutch for yourself. So if I'm using an app in every class and I just pop it up on my bike, it tells me exactly what to say, what to do, what's next, I don't really have to think. I'm just focusing on my phone the whole time. You're never really going to get good at improvising and ad-libbing, and it will take away from your confidence because you'll feel so much like you need to rely on that app. Now, like I've said in the past, I'm totally for having notes and being prepared, but when it's to the T and you don't give yourself any flexibility to actually be the instructor you want to be, it gets very limiting, and it will limit you as an instructor, especially over time. So I would highly suggest, if you're using an app, and I'll tell you what I do as an alternative. Try and shy away from that. It will take some time to get away, especially if you've been using a certain app for a while. What I do is I make all my routines in an Excel file, which I love because I'm an Excel nerd, but it gives me columns and I can make it look all pretty and whatever. And I can work with Spotify on my computer. And then I get the Google Sheets application on my phone, so it's free. So you can basically open up the sheet on your phone. You'll see the spreadsheet. It'll look a little funky formatting wise, but once you adjust it, you can take a couple screenshots. It's usually 2 or 3 depending how long my routine is, and then I save those to my photos. Then I don't need Wi-Fi to access them. They're going to be there on my phone and on my iPhone because I have both. So I'll have a backup, and then say my phone breaks in the middle of class or begins to update in the middle of class, which yes, has happened to me and was awful. I'll grab my iPod, I'll just go to my photos, open it up, start my Spotify music, and I'm good to go. If you don't have a backup iPod or iPhone, whatever your second means of teaching could be, you can always just print it out from Excel and have a hard copy of the notes, which you also couldn't do with an app. So I would highly suggest doing that. It will also help you. You'll probably not be able to have too many notes, so it'll keep that ad-libbing piece in there and it'll make you better instructor over time. I'm a really big fan of it. I think if you don't want to do that, I really suggest that you find a way to have notes and, to keep your cues and everything that you want to have, your routine, in something other than an application where you are in total control and technology isn't. So highly recommend that. Next question. Sarah asked, she said she struggles with creative ideas for promoting her class. Can anyone share ideas of fun things you do? So I wanted to share a few ideas. I think first of all, you want to make your class exciting, right? Hey, Mimi. So you want to maybe you could do like themes. We'll have tons of ideas in this group, I'm sure, but we already had someone mention a movie theme. You could do a battle of the artists and pick 2 artists. You could do like TV shows, I think was another one. There's just so many different ways you can theme a class. I mean, I always do it based on holidays too, so like a St. Patty's theme, a Valentine's Day theme, you can do those things. And then promoting it is a lot more fun because you can make, like a flyer. Maybe if it's a Valentine's Day theme, you can make it look all pretty with Valentine's Day stuff and then put it out in your gym. So this will depend on if you are in a studio gym or a commercial type gym. They're probably going to limit in more of a studio in what you can do to promote, but commercial gyms usually want you to get people in there, so they'll be all for it. You can make flyers, you can post things on their bulletin board. If they have an email newsletter or a hard copy newsletter, you could try and get something in there. That's an option too. You could advertise that 15 minutes before class, you'll show newbies how to use the bikes and you'll get them warmed up. A lot of people are just intimidated. Honestly, we forget how scary it is to walk into a room full of bikes because we're used to it. People that have never been in any sort of class, think about their perception of what cycling is now. They probably think Soul Cycle. super intense, you know, hardcore sweating, darkness, dancing, all these crazy moves. That's probably their image of what cycling is. And so if that's what they're thinking, they're not just going to jump right into a studio. You need to help them into it. So advertising, you're going to do like 15 minutes for newbies to show them kind of how to do it, and maybe tell them they only need to stay for half the class. Things like that. I really think getting those people that have never been in a studio before that's always my goal. Get people to try it who have never tried it before, right? So that's an option. You also asked, Sarah, I guess your gym is encouraging you to go out on the floor and try and encourage people to try class. That's aggressive. That's awesome, and I think you can totally do it. I did that as a trainer, a personal trainer. I don't think I've ever seen people do it for group fitness, but why not, right? I would just say to remember that selling isn't telling. I heard that once and I love it. You don't want to walk up to someone and start convincing them to come to your class. You want to start a conversation organically, ask them about them, what their fitness goals are, how's it going, what they're kind of doing that day. Are they doing cardio? Perfect. Come to my class. It's a great cardio, you know. Or if you're doing a strength class, you're doing a lot of hills, perfect. You're working your legs today? Come into my class. You know, things like that. You definitely don't want to just go up and start selling your class because they'll get turned off. I mean, imagine if you were working out and someone came up to you and tried to convince them. How would you want them to do it? I would say, think about it like that. Another suggestion I would have would be to stand at the front desk where people come in and you're greeting them. It's much easier to start a conversation organically when you're making eye contact with someone. They're coming in, they're not in the middle of their workout with their headphones in, you know? So you could do that. Tell them what you're doing in class that day. Try to convince them, you know, that it's worth at least one try. Maybe tell them kind of songs that you're going to play. I don't know. You can really, once you gauge what they're interested in from having that organic conversation, it'll be so much easier to convince them to come to class. People just want someone they trust, and if they trust you, they'll come. They just need to get that extra push. All right, I think I talked fast. I think that was everything that we had. Does anybody have any more questions? Feel free to post them in the comments. I'll give you a minute. No. Okay. I do have a couple client calls coming up. I do coach instructors, so if anyone ever needs help with things, that's what I'm here for. It's a lot of fun for me, and it's where I get all this information for you guys. I learn it as I go more and more from everybody else, so I have a lot of years of experience plus a lot of years of chatting with people in my back pocket. So if anyone has any more questions, I would love to answer them now or next time. Always feel free to post in the group too. I'm checking those all week. I basically save the questions and then bring them to the Hoerner Happy Hour. So if you didn't get a chance to ask your questions, you're watching this on the replay, post them in the comments. I'll check them out and I'll save them for next week. All right, guys, have a great night.